App Store.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. And obviously the world's eyes, or at least our eyes, are down on Georgia, where they are voting in the Senate runoff elections. And Fox News has been reporting on hardly anything else at all, except that how the voters feel. Personally, I think it's a study in foregone conclusions. I think the Democrats are going to steal both of those. We know that the Democrats were way ahead in the mail-in ballots, which is where a lot of the chicanery was taking place here. And we'll see what's going to happen. I mean, if the Democrats do steal it tonight, and I think they probably will, it's only going to increase tensions going into tomorrow, where we have the joint session of Congress to certify the electors, along with Donald Trump's rally that is going to present the evidence of election fraud, which will be ignored by the corporate media completely, in my opinion here. Anyway, Trump is still fighting. And he says he hopes Mike Pence comes through for us, but we're not really sure where Pence is coming from. If he's been bought, if he's being blackmailed. I mean, has he been down to Jeffrey Epstein's island? It seems like our entire upper level of government is held together in this Gordian knot of mutual blackmail and bribery, and that's a terrible way to run a country here. Now, Senator Kelly Loeffler, Republican from Georgia, announced yesterday that she will also object to the Electoral College votes tomorrow in the joint session of Congress here. And she's out there saying elections are the bedrock of our democracy. That's certainly true. And the American people deserve to be 100% confident in our election system and our outcomes. Well, that's certainly a far cry from what's really going on. Polls are showing slightly more than half of Americans think this last election was absolutely rigged. And that's an unsurvivable situation here. Now, apparently, a conservative group led by an ally of Mike Pence ran $25,000 worth of ads on the Fox News channel in the Mar-a-Lago market to convince President Donald Trump that Pence remains loyal. And my question is, why? Because we'll find out Pence's loyalty tomorrow, obviously. But why run $25,000 worth of ads just trying to reach that one person here? Now, Donald Trump is still lashing out at the Surrender Caucus, the Republicans who don't want to fight for an honest election here. And he says Republicans never forget. And apparently ultra-conservative Tom Cotton and other major party figures are out there slamming the Dirty Dozen, is what they're calling them, which is the Senate Republicans who are going to object to the electors tomorrow. Trump went so far as to warn Senator Tom Cotton for refusing to contest Joe Biden's win. And so it's just getting ugly. And I don't know that tomorrow is going to end it. I don't think it will. I think it's going to continue. And we'll see what's going to happen there. Meanwhile, the progressive squad are demanding that Congress launch a new impeachment investigation against Donald Trump. Well, why are you bothering if you're absolutely convinced that Biden is the president? There's no point in impeaching him after January 20th here. Meanwhile, Alan Dershowitz has waded on in and says that Trump's phone call down to the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, has been taken out of context by the corporate media. And of course, this was a private conversation that Raffensperger leaked, and apparently he's now being investigated under the Espionage Act. And Dershowitz basically said every major media took it completely out of context. All Trump did was to say, please check. There are still missing votes according to the numbers, and we need to find them, which is what he's been saying for the last several weeks here. Now, this story broke earlier today, and this could throw a real monkey wrench in things here. Apparently, the state of Wisconsin is going to introduce a resolution Thursday morning that will decertify the state's electoral college votes and award them to President Trump. Now, it's probably going to meet a lot of opposition from Democrats in that state, but on the off chance that it would pass, that is really going to throw a monkey wrench into the machinery here. We're talking constitutional crisis. We're talking about having to reconvene the joint session and recount the electoral votes. And along the line of this possibly continuing after tomorrow, the White House trade advisor, Peter Navarro, on Fox News said that the January 20th date of inauguration date could be postponed if necessary. And Navarro made the remarks on Justice with Judge Janine back on the 2nd in the context of a recent call by 11 Republican senators for Congress to appoint an electoral commission to conduct an emergency 10-day audit of the election result. And yeah, there needs to be that. I mean, there's so many fraud, proven fraud, caught on videotape. I mean, there's no question massive amounts of fraud happened. Now, Javon Hutton Pulitzer reported yesterday that mail-in ballots were received with the votes already filled in by machine. In other words, these mail-in ballots were already pre-printed with Joe Biden for president here. Now, Dominion Voting Systems is rattling their saber and warning it might sue Donald Trump over his claims of election fraud. They're also going to go after Sidney Powell. I think this would be a disaster for Dominion because it would allow Donald Trump and Sidney Powell to introduce into a court of law the evidence of fraud. And, once it's in the court record, all kinds of things could happen from that. Now, yesterday, we reported on this story where all 10 former defense secretaries warned Donald Trump not to involve the U.S. military in his dispute over the 2020 election results. Well, it turns out Trump has not even hinted at taking such a step. And, they're out there setting up a straw man to knock down, but Trump hasn't talked about using the military. Anyway, Washington, D.C. is boarding up ahead of today's Georgia runoff and Congress finalizing the election result. The mayor has called in 340 National Guard troops for what he says will be wild pro-Trump protests in the city. But he's being told the MAGA crowds don't torch and loot. However, the Proud Boys are going on in there. Apparently, their leader got arrested at the D.C. airport. We'll talk about that in a little while here. But they're concerned about there being violence. We know that Antifa are being bussed in. Washington, D.C., along with calling up the National Guard, has issued a ban on all guns, which I think is probably a good thing. But again, this protest is going to be loaded up with all kinds of agent provocateurs, and what media shows up is going to be there to try and make Trump supporters look as bad as possible. So please be on your best behavior. Please be peaceful. If you see an agent provocateur, just circle them and point them out and just say, agent provocateur, agent provocateur, agent provocateur. We had to do the same thing out in Hawaii when we were protesting the Iraq war there. Okay, now, as I mentioned before, Proud Boys founder Enrique Tarrio was arrested while he was being driven from a D.C. area airport. Now, he was pulled over for allegedly burning a stolen Black Lives Matter banner taken from a historic Black Washington, D.C. church last month. It was then followed up by unconfirmed reports. Tarrio was in possession of 2 high-capacity firearm magazines. Well, they don't say he had a gun, and what's the point of having the magazines if you don't have the firearm to go with them? So I don't think that really happened. It's just, again, they're out to make everybody supporting Trump look bad. Now, Joe Biden called a lid at 10:30 a.m. This morning as the Democrats go in for the steal in the Senate runoff. In other words, officially, no more campaign activities were to take place. And again, he didn't feel he needed to campaign in the general election. Why would he feel he needs to campaign in the Georgia runoff here? Now, Facebook pulled the plug on an ad by the Lincoln Project on the grounds that it delegitimized the Georgia runoff elections taking place today. So Facebook is still out there making sure that the American people who are not able to use computers are still getting the official view of what's going on here. I wonder how long it's going to be before they ban outright computers. We'll still have our smartphones and our tablets, you know, our end terminals, as it were. But actually having a standalone computer on your desk, that may go the way of the family still, as all, you know, as history has shown here. Apparently, Antifa went to Josh Hawley's home in Washington, D.C., and threatened his wife and newborn daughter, who cannot travel because of COVID-19. He calls Antifa scumbags. They screamed threats, vandalized, and tried to break down the door. And he says, we will not be intimidated by left-wing violence. So it's just getting really ugly going into tomorrow. Now, Kamala Harris, who's been sworn in as a senator, kind of hedging her bets there, came on out with a story about how she fell out of a baby stroller during a civil rights march and then told her mom all she wanted was freedom. And apparently she plagiarized the story from a 1965 Playboy interview with Martin Luther King. So she's still being a faker out there, but then aren't they all? Tulsi Gabbard is blasting the Democrats for their decision to remove gendered language from the House of Representatives. And she says this is a move that is hypocritical for the party that claims to care about women's rights. It's a very silly thing for them to do. And, you know, aren't there better things to be doing? Meanwhile, House Republicans are disgusted that newly reelected House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is keeping Representative Eric Swalwell on the House Intelligence Committee, despite the recent revelation he had deep ties to a suspected Chinese spy for several years as he was elected to Congress and began serving on the committee. Minority Whip Steve Scalise tweeted after the new Congress was sworn in on Sunday, "Unbelievable. Looks like Nancy Pelosi is keeping Swalwell on the House Intelligence Committee, even after his ties to a Chinese spy were exposed. Why do Democrats refuse to stand up to China?" Well, because China has the pink slip on the incoming president, apparently, here. Story coming on out from the Gateway Pundit. Apparently, they got a glimpse at the contents of Hunter Biden's controversial laptop. And apparently he kept a diary on there. And they're saying it's just full of all kinds of horrible stuff. They describe him as an animal. He's a drug addict who isn't limited by money or the law. He's got lots of money from the corrupt deals with some of the most violent people on earth. And he's immune from the law due to being the son of Joe Biden. He's a very sick individual. And again, maybe that's par for the course for Washington, D.C. Excuse me, a lot of particulates in the air today here. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden is out there whining to his friends that every great family is persecuted and prosecuted in the United States. He's trying to play the victim card. Good luck on that one with those videos and images on that laptop here. Now, Twitter has suspended TGP's Joe Hoft after he shared a factual report on Hunter Biden's serial sex and crack escapades, all of which is backed up with the material taken from that laptop here. So, again, they're out there, they're protecting the political establishment from the wrath of the American people. And polls are showing that most voters, had they known about the laptop, would not have voted for Biden. And that's interference in the election by Twitter, by Facebook, by all of these giant social media companies. They're interfering in our elections by not allowing the truth to come out about, the people who are running for office here. Getting on back to Julian Assange, as you're aware, yesterday, a British judge refused the U.S. request for extradition. And the United States is now appealing. And Prime Minister Scott Morrison is saying that Julian Assange will be free to return to Australia once the legal battle in the United Kingdom is over. It could happen as soon as Wednesday when the U.S. officially files their appeal. Meanwhile, Mexico is offering Julian Assange political asylum in order to avoid extradition to the United States. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said it was his nation's responsibility to offer protection after the U.S. announced it was appealing the U.S. court decision. And Obrador said Assange is a journalist and he deserves a chance. I am in favor of pardoning him. So, Assange may wind up living in Mexico the way Snowden is living in Russia here. Now, Assange has scored a major victory with the unexpected decision by Judge Vanessa Barretzer to deny the extradition. But unfortunately, we need to look at the downside of this persecution or prosecution, whichever word you want here. Press freedom is openly being crushed. Dissent is being declared a mental illness. And by the way, that's an old trick the Soviet Union used to do. And so it's we're seeing the decline and fall of the American Republic and the rise of the American empire. And it's really kind of depressing for those of us old enough to remember what the United States used to be or was supposed to be. And they're not even teaching that in schools anymore. They're not really teaching our kids what the founding fathers were about. So anyway, hang on. Sorry about all the even nursing home. We've lost the audio. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're okay now. Live radio, what can I tell you? Okay, so even nursing home workers who saw the worst of the pandemic are refusing the COVID vaccine. And apparently it's being described as shockingly large numbers. But apparently they are very concerned that the vaccines are not safe. They're apparently aware enough of independent media to be seeing all the reports of thousands of adverse reactions of people who get the shot and then seem to come down with COVID, of that nurse who died, the nurse who developed Bell's palsy, and so forth and so on here. Now, Glenn Greenwald has a story out here that big tech is now censoring the COVID debate. Not satisfied with interfering with our elections, they're now out there to protect the big pharma industry. And again, it's why big tech really is, it's a danger to the American people. It's a danger to our First Amendment here. Over at YouTube, which is owned by Google, they removed the talk radio channel from its platform. Now, YouTube had been where talk radio streamed its live video content and kept an archive of old shows. And apparently the channel had accumulated tens of millions of views and 250,000 subscribers. And YouTube simply said the account was terminated for violating YouTube's community guidelines. And apparently the termination came shortly after the British government announced a third lockdown, and talk radio has been exceptionally critical of the lockdown policy. And apparently YouTube's policy includes content that discourages people from consulting a medical professional or seeking medical advice or disagreeing with the World Health Organization. Okay, so we're going to take a break here for commercials. We'll be back with more news after these few words.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington, too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. But I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder going into 2021, Republic Broadcasting needs your support to keep on doing what we're doing for as long as we can do it, which is to give the American people the information they need to have to make good choices. So once again, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And of course, all of this contact information is up at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. Okay, now, all righty, reading some messages from the control room here. We mentioned about this nurse who died, 41-year-old Sonia Azevedo, mother of two, was a surgical assistant at an oncology hospital in Porto. And she was among the 538 healthcare workers who received their first dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine last Wednesday. Apparently, she had dinner with her family on New Year's Eve, was found dead in bed the following morning. No prior health issues whatsoever. She was in absolute perfect health. So there is something out there. All right, we're still seeing people being arrested for violating the COVID curfew, even though it's already been shown social distancing doesn't really work. The masks don't really work, although some of them are fun to wear. I've got one with fangs. I should wear it on the show tomorrow here. Meanwhile, over in Scotland, it is now illegal to leave your house. And the ministers are saying they're more worried about COVID than at any stage in the pandemic so far. And they're closing churches and group exercise. And so apparently Scotland is now back in a hard lockdown, along with many other parts of the United Kingdom. Okay, a landmark New York City restaurant, Sammy's Romanian, is shutting its doors after 47 years. And so far, more than 1,000 restaurants have permanently closed during the pandemic. It's crippling the restaurant industry. It's actually crippling our entire economy. Not that our economy was in good shape to begin with, but now, hey, they can blame it all on the pandemic rather than the bankers here. Okay, the FDA has joined the World Health Organization and Dr. Fauci in admitting there is a notable risk of false positives from the standard PCR test used to define whether an individual is a COVID case or not. And what this does, if they stop using that test, we're going to see the case numbers plummet, and Biden will take the credit for beating the pandemic. Okay, so that's how politics work in the United States of America, or I guess pretty much anywhere. Apparently, there's a new study out. It involved data from 11,000 healthcare workers in Newcastle, and it suggests that catching the coronavirus does make you immune to reinfection for at least 6 months. So that's a little bit of good news for those who've already had COVID virus. And maybe you may be an out for having to get the vaccine, saying, no, I've already had it. I've got the antibodies. U.S. airlines, major U.S. airlines, are urging Trump to lift the travel ban on passengers from Europe and the United Kingdom and instead enforce mandatory tests before departure. This despite Britain, despite Britain plunging into its third lockdown as it battles the catastrophic super COVID surge. Oh my goodness, let me get some water. All righty, there's a video that's out there. We linked it to whatreallyhappened.com. And apparently the death count in Ontario includes people who did not actually die of COVID-19. And basically, the daily pandemic death counts in Ontario include people who tested positive for COVID-19, but they may have died from other causes. And they don't actually know how many people have died from the virus itself. I remember a story from last week where a guy who was killed being thrown from a car in an accident was listed as a COVID case because he had COVID in his system here. All right, there's an article that came on out from uns.com basically saying COVID is an orchestration for serving the agenda of the destruction of freedom, to get us all used to staying at home, not getting out, talking with our fellow Americans or British, and to basically force us into the use of digital money and other forms of dictatorship. Okay, we got to take another break for commercials. I'm going to try and clear my throat, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org. Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here's a testimonial from Amazon.com. I am only 40, but I have put my body through hell working in manufacturing for 20 years. I recently started to notice a buzzing feeling along with a stuttering sensation with my heart. I had a full cardio stress done, which I passed. I decided to try Extendivite after getting the jingle stuck in my head. Halfway through the bottle, I really did notice a difference. After getting home from work, I would just sit in a chair for a few hours feeling like crap, and this stuff reduced that feeling along with heart discomfort to almost nothing. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. Wall Street wizards on the land from a mental institution. Claim private retirement funds. Yeah, they are the best solution. But when the markets crash, we'll be asking where's the cash? Guess them folks in D.C. must be smoking Texas hash. Congress pay the piper when all the money.
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to talk about the economic news here for a little bit. And if you are one of those people who have not yet received a stimulus deposit into your bank account here, you're not alone. It's all over Twitter. People are saying, where is it? It was announced it was going to be going out immediately. And apparently there is a nationwide issue with the processing of the latest stimulus payment. And the error has resulted in millions of payments failing to transmit to financial institutions. Apparently, the IRS Get My Economic Impact payment portal is not accurately reflecting payment details. It sounds like they've had a major computer breakdown. I don't know why. It seemed to work fine the last time, but something happened over there. You know, my concern is we're going to get the checks, and written across the front it will say, please don't cash until November. A top Chinese official has announced that his country hopes the U.S. has learned its place as China looks forward to return of what they call normalcy here. And they're saying it's a new window of hope. Well, of course, they would say that. They've got their talons in Joe Biden through his son, Hunter. They've got all the goods on him. And they can blackmail Hunter to put pressure on Joe. and Joe is going to be selling us out to China. That's just no two questions about that here. Okay, now remember Russiagate? How could you forget, really? And there were the claims of Russian hacking, Trump-Russia collusion. They refanned the Skripal poisoning incident and the Navalny poisoning incident. And basically, it's all come on out. According to this article in Blacklisted News, it's all been revealed as a PSYOP operation to get us all to go along with the attempt to bring Russia down. And again, like with China, we can't actually compete with Russia. So we're going to start a war and just smash them down, which was a big part of World War I and World War II. I mean, World War I began between Austria-Hungary and I'm blanking the other Serbia, and somehow it mutated into a war against Germany. Why was that? Well, because Germany was a manufacturing and economic powerhouse in Europe that threatened Great Britain. And even more, they did not have a private central bank at that time, which Great Britain did. So they just went on in and smashed Germany, dumped all the war debt on them. Germany recovered, and by the 1930s, they were once again a manufacturing powerhouse and an economic powerhouse. Winston Churchill, before he became prime minister, on his radio show kept saying, we're going to have to go and smash them up again. So that's what's driving all of this with Russia and China and Iran. Iran still refuses to have a private central bank. Now, we were talking the other day, pardon me, about the USS Nimitz, which had been recalled from the Persian Gulf to try and ease tensions with Iran. Then we reported yesterday it was on its way back. And according to this story coming out of the Daily Mail, this was by the order of Donald Trump himself, where he ordered defense officials to keep the Nimitz in the Middle East after the Pentagon said it was going to pull the carrier out of the region. And Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller announced its redeployment as a de-escalatory signal to Tehran in the run-up to Sunday's one-year anniversary of the assassination of Soleimani. But the president overturned his order, and the Nimitz is going back on in there. So it's getting ugly. We're not going to end this year without major war across the globe. Story coming on out of Mint Press News here. Apparently, Saudi Arabia is launching more airstrikes, including in Yemen, including a wedding ceremony, bombed the civilians. On New Year's night, at least 5 civilians were killed when Saudi-backed militants launched artillery rounds at this wedding ceremony in the populated Al-Haq area. Meanwhile, signs are pointing to imminent Israeli military action in Yemen as well. Everybody's ready for the war, except those who are going to have to actually fight in it, of course. What's that old saying? Wars are invented by old men for young men to die in. Well, get ready for that here. Over in Palestine, in Tulkarem, soldiers apparently fired concussion grenades at a hospital. And the Israeli soldiers invaded yesterday the northern West Bank city of Tulkarem before storming into Thabat Government Hospital and firing off concussion grenades. And apparently the soldiers fired these grenades into the reception area and the emergency unit, which of course upset the patients, doctors, and so forth. Kind of a tacky thing to do, really, here. There's an article that came on out from uns.com called a New Year's Wish. And basically, the article is all about delinking the United States from Israel. And just, looking, why a rich country like Israel should be getting billions of dollars from the United States taxpayer at a time when American taxpayers are struggling simply to survive. And of course, the corporate media says, oh, you're being an anti-Semite, or you're being a Jew hater, or all the rest of that stuff. But they're getting like $10 billion a year, plus whatever they get from other governments. Now, there was another article from Mint Press News talking about the American money tree and how this so-called COVID-19 relief package sent a huge amount of money over to Israel. And, you know, you've got high unemployment and poverty in the U.S. is skyrocketing as a result of all these coronavirus lockdowns. But Congress found it essential to give Israel an additional $3.3 billion in security assistance. Now, this raises a question, and you may keep this in mind when you call on into the program here. Can anyone out there name just one country that taxes their people and sends the money to the United States? Just one. All I need is one. Meanwhile, over in Brooklyn, there were 4 synagogues that were vandalized with anti-Semitic graffiti over the weekend. They caught the suspect, the perpetrator, 39-year-old Emil Benjamin, who's a Jewish man from Brooklyn. More hate crime hoaxes. Feel sorry for us. Feel sorry for us. No, don't do that anymore. You burned that out here. Okay. Now, the feud between Beijing and Washington escalated on Twitter after U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo disputed China's claim that it's a near Arctic state. And Pompeo provoked China by saying, I made clear that it is a communist fiction for China to be a near Arctic nation when you are 900 miles from the Arctic. And the Global Times editor-in-chief tweeted back to Pompeo saying, you know, how far the continental United States is from the South China Sea. So game, set, and match to China on that one here. Story coming out of UNS.com here. Apparently, internal files of the National Counterterrorism Center and the FBI recently leaked to Yahoo News reveal that the FBI and British intelligence are using COINTELPRO-style tactics against nationalists. Remember, everybody's pushing for globalism. They don't like nationalists. It's one of the reasons they hated Donald Trump. Now, if you are young, you may not remember what COINTELPRO was. COINTELPRO, which was short for Counterintelligence Program, was an operation by the FBI, was back in the 60s and 70s, that disrupted freedom of speech and attacked, okay, wow. Somebody just sent me a picture of the crowd gathering in Washington, D.C. It is huge. So anyway, COINTELPRO, they engaged in crimes. They framed people. They planted false information. They came out with what was called the Black Panther Coloring Book. That was an FBI fake. It was designed to destroy the dialogue between the white population and the black population. You need to remember, when the Black Panthers first formed, they were not a militant group. Their agenda was to make sure that school children had breakfasts every day. That's a good thing. They wanted local control of the school curriculum, which, I mean, who knows better what the community needs than the community? And they were deemed a threat to the national order. And of course, they were opposed to the war in Vietnam. So the FBI went after them. They also went after the early feminists. They went after Native Americans. And a whistleblowing group got hold of some of the COINTELPRO files, leaked them to the press, which back then was willing to print things that were embarrassing to the government. And it basically brought the entire government to the edge of illegitimacy, to where Congress had to hold hearings during which the FBI promised that they would never do those sorts of things ever again. The Church Committee, of course, concluded that the FBI is still up to its same dirty tricks, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of them on the streets of Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Okay, let's see. We're going to do this to our control room here. Interestingly enough, I mean, to show you where the liberal agenda is going, it is now legal in Massachusetts for 16 and 17-year-olds to get an abortion without parental permission. Okay, this was vetoed by the governor. They overrode the veto. But I mean, I think it's really a little bit sick here. And this story sort of sums up one of the reasons I'm opposed to abortion here. This is from Red State. And apparently there was a new study done on abortions in the state of Florida that shows the vast majority of abortions are done for reasons that have nothing to do with rape, incest, or the health of the mother. According to the study, it's used for retroactive birth control. And that is one of the reasons I am not in favor of unquestioning access to abortion, because we're basically dealing with a population that refuses to accept responsibility for their own sexuality. They want to go around saying, I'm not that kind of girl. And then when they find out they are that kind of girl, then they just go get an abortion. And they're largely using it, for birth control. And of course, Planned Parenthood isn't going to like that, because they're always insisting that the abortions they perform are because of rape and incest or a health threat to the mother. Okay, getting into the world of wokeness and so forth and so on. There's a children's author, Sir Michael Morpurgo, and he is putting together a children's book based on Shakespeare's plays that he is basically updating the anthology in terms of language to make it easier for children to read Shakespeare's play. So it's a big modernization here, trying to make them appeal to a young audience, but he is going to omit The Merchant of Venice for fear of offending Jews. So there we are here. Now, this is getting really weird here. California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara is asking the Department of Insurance to issue a general counsel opinion letter clarifying that gender dysphoric individuals cannot legally be denied chest reconstructive surgery solely based on their age in the state of California, meaning those under 18 years old will be able to qualify for mastectomies. And this is child abuse here. And you know what? I'm starting to think that all this push for transgenderism, it's just a marketing campaign by the medical industrial complex to make transgenderism popular, to build consumer demand for surgeries, followed by a lifetime of hormone treatments to as many people as possible. The Benjamins are just going to be rolling on in. Please don't be a sucker and don't fall for it. Okay? All right, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252. And over in North India, they have been hit with historic low temperatures. It's creating difficult conditions for people in Delhi. Apparently, they had heavy rains. They got a month's worth of rain in a single day. Gosh darn that human-caused global warming here. Righty. All right, getting into science and space news. This stuff's kind of cool here. There are now 3 missions getting ready to explore Mars, which is going to be very, very exciting. Now, some of these were derailed and delayed due to the pandemic, but there's going to be a lot of this stuff going on in 2021. This is according to Thomas Zurbuchen, who's the Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate. And they're going to be sending missions to explore Mars, new telescopes to begin observations, and plans are underway to send humans back to the moon by 2024. And they're making a promise they will make sure that a woman goes on the trip here. The Parker Solar Probe will make its next close approach to the sun this month, actually. The OSIRIS-REx mission will begin its 2-year return journey to Earth after collecting a sample of the near-Earth asteroid Bennu. Now, we talked about this before, but we're going to mention it again. Down in Australia, pardon me, they've been using the Parkes telescope as part of what's called the Breakthrough Listen Initiative. And while they had the antenna pointed at Proxima Centauri, which is the nearest star to our sun, they detected an interesting signal. and it's narrow band, meaning it's a very narrow frequency. Most natural radio sources tend to be very wide band. This is narrow band, and it's drifting in frequency the way it would if it was coming from a planet orbiting Proxima Centauri, which is thought to have at least one planet in what is called the habitable zone. So they're still analyzing the data, but they're saying this could actually be the very first hard evidence of an intelligence extraterrestrial civilization off the planet here. So that would be really good. Now, the message so far translates as send more Chuck Berry. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials. We got callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out thekosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Forced to carry his own cross while we drive nails in his coffin. You might say it is routine. It happens far too often. A decorated soldier, veteran of the war. Who would have thought that he would be among the sick and poor? Preacher man wags his head while the rich
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go to the phones now to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, how you doing, Mike? You know, Mike, when you just bring up this thing about this transgender agenda, and when you look at even like what this little witch there, Pelosi, senile old bag there in the Congress doesn't want mother or father mentioned or anything like that. This goes along with what I was saying the other day, and evidently three amigos didn't understand what I'm trying to say. All right, you just mentioned about President Obrador in Mexico. Said he would give Julian Assange asylum there.
Yes,
and he is a socialist, but he's not a globalist. As a matter of fact, Mexico seems to be doing a lot better right now, and right now they seem to have more freedom than we do. I watch sometimes the Dollar Vigilante. I don't know if you know who he is.
I know who that is. Yep.
Yeah, but he's forget his name. But he's on you can get him on BitChute and other things. And he lives in Mexico and he's very happy. And from what the pictures I can tell, seems to be life's not that bad there. And that's why you don't have to worry too much about people lining up at the border anymore, at least not from Mexico. I think a lot of them are going back there. I think there was some report about that recently.
There actually was.
Yeah. So you don't. So because the whole thing about what's going on right now is we are playing into this globalist, anti-human agenda.
Yeah.
And that's why the globalists, these tech companies, love the transvestites. They love the idea that you can actually turn a boy into you're not going to really, but you're going to have operations and stuff and hormones to turn a little kid, maybe 8, 9 years old, into a girl, a boy into a girl or a girl into a boy. And even if, case in Texas, and I'm sure there's probably more Texas, where the mother wants to do it and the father, they're separated. They're divorced.
Yes.
The father says, no way. And the judge is siding with the mother. It's just criminal. If it was up to me, that judge would be hauled right off of her bench, right off of her seat there in the court and put in jail, okay? Along with any doctor who would perform these kind of outrages. And the mother would be in a psych center immediately, in a mental institution.
Yes.
All right? I mean, for crying out loud. But yet this is happening. And to think that I know that I think it was Miles in Maine said that, whoa, this is only one case. No, this isn't just one case. It's happening far too often. And again, if we get people coming into this country who are against this kind of garbage and who want to stand for the family and bring this country back to what we're supposed to be, okay, a decent, God-fearing country where where the family is valued,
Mark?
the mother and father are valued. That's what
Mark, I got to put you on hold. Don't hang up. We got to take a break for station identification. We'll be back with you after these few words.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cachingproperty.com. That's cachingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Welcome to the Michael Rivero What Really Happened radio program.
And welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And Mark in North Carolina, you were sharing your opinions with us, and please continue.
Yeah, again, if you look at what's going on with these vaccines, which are meant to sterilize and they're meant to kill, okay? Everything is going along with these predatory billionaires, and they're who want both control and they want to get rid of most of us. That's what these people are madmen. That's the reason I'm concerned about a possible nuclear war anyway, because nobody in their right mind is going to even think of starting a war with Russia or China. But these clowns, certainly with Russia, who's got over 7,000 nukes, but these clowns are capable of it because they seem to want to wipe out most of the planet's population. And it's behind their transgenderism and everything else. And so I don't care if we're going to get people from other countries, whether they're black, brown, white, red, yellow, whatever, if they stand for what America's about, and that's families and decency and, and understanding our Constitution. If they understand our Constitution, I got no problems with them. Okay, but they understand what it is to be free. And I listen to a guy like Rashid Uttar, who's a Muslim, that doctor there. He talks about not only the wicked plans of these globalists, of these murderers like Bill Gates, and he understands our Constitution better than most people who are born in America. He was born in Britain, by the way, but his parents are from Pakistan. But he served in the United States military. He was an officer, as a matter of fact. The guy gets it. So does Dr. Shiva. So it seems to me like a lot of people come over here, they understand what it is to be an American more than most of us born here do. Okay? They're not going to put up with this kind of garbage. I'm sorry. It's not just something minor. To me, this is the most serious thing facing this country, and it's all related, whether it's the lockdowns, the vaccines, the mask wearing, try to take our freedoms for a cold. That's basically what COVID-19 is, a cold. Okay?
Yes.
And this is what they're trying to do. And it's all goes around these globalists, all right? And Americans being too stupid in many cases to not understand that and to follow like a bunch of sheep with their masks and everything else. And now I understand already, Mike Adams is saying 4 million people have already taken a horrible vaccine. And they're probably going to die a horrible death or at least be sterilized, because he said within 5 years, because now their immune system is compromised. So if they catch a cold, any kind of a coronavirus, the body is going to tend to overreact, and that's what do you call immune deficiency? A reaction there. Okay, serious reaction, and already people are dying just within a few days of taking it, like you just mentioned that nurse there. Okay, you got to stop. People got to understand what the real threat is. The real threat isn't the few people coming across the border. The real threat is internal, and it's these billionaires. And Mike, I'm going to tell you this: I'm not a socialist. To me, socialism is just another economic system.
Yes.
But people don't understand the real meaning of a socialist. These clowns, these billionaires, Bill Gates is not a socialist. He's a eugenist. He's a Malthus. That means he wants to wipe out a good portion of the human population. Okay? That's who these people are. And
yes.
Billionaires are predators. So I would not mind some kind of a nationalist, socialist type of system. Now, I'm not talking about that national socialist. Okay, I'm not talking about.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, I'm talking about looking out for ourselves, confiscating some of the wealth out of these billionaires and multimillionaires, and basically catering to the working people of this country and the small businesses of this country to help them, because that's who keeps this country going.
Yes.
It isn't the billionaires. It isn't the big corporations. They need to be broken up. If assets should be seized, okay? And many of their executives need to go to prison and stay in prison. I'd even do worse to them if I was in charge. But let's just say a supermax. Okay?
Yes.
That's the problem, Mike. It's not a few people coming over the border, like I said before. I'm not saying we should. Of course, you need borders. Of course, you should make sure that people, who don't belong to this country don't get into this country. You never know what, you get criminals coming in. You got people who have communicable diseases and stuff like that. So you got to be careful. But that is not the main problem. The main problem is domestic, and it's people like Bill Gates, Fauci, Zuckerberg, Dorsey, and these big banks, big pharma, big chemical like Monsanto. These are the main threat to the existence, not only to the decency of this country, but to the existence of the United States and actually of mankind as a whole. So that's all I got to say, Mike. Appreciate you listening.
Well, not a problem. Thank you very much for the phone call and for your opinions. And, it's kind of interesting. Tom Clancy actually, in his book Rainbow Six, talks about a plot among the world's richest people to depopulate the planet so they can have it all for themselves. And it seems that art imitates life at some point. Let's switch over to Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, I heard your comments earlier about wars and people who don't have to fight them, but who start them. And that reminded me of a letter that Ernest Hemingway wrote to Esquire magazine, September 1935. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read 2 sentences from there. And it gets right to the heart of our current problem. He says, "No one man nor group of men incapable of fighting or exempt from fighting should in any way be given the power, no matter how gradually it is given to them, to put this country or any country into war. The first panacea for a mismanaged nation is inflation of the currency. The second is war. Both bring a temporary prosperity, both bring a permanent ruin, but both are the refuge of political and economic opportunists." He wrote that 85 years ago. And he nailed the problem back. He nailed exactly what the problem we have today, 85 years ago.
He had history behind him. Every time the United States government gets the economy into a mess, they get into a war to get out of it.
That's what he says right here.
Yeah.
Exactly what he says right here. And if you look at that SOB Biden, he's going to load up his cabinet with the same warmongering SOBs who have been in Washington, D.C. for decades. And the United States, he's going to blow up the Middle East. He's going to take those 4 treaties that Trump negotiated in the Middle East. He'll tear those up, and he'll have and he's going to blow the whole Middle East up again, just as the previous Democrat administration did.
Yes.
Under Hillary Clinton and goofy Obama. So we're going right back to square one when it comes to the problems that we've had for many decades. Biden will have us involved in war again. And every time I look at that SOB, I think of this letter from Hemingway. It's one of the most influential things I've read in my life. I tracked down that copy of Esquire. I have it sitting right in front of me. And I had a high quality scan made of the letter. It's 2 long pages, and I had it framed and it's sitting in my office. It influenced me that much. And I think more people need to read this. Hemingway people tend to think of Hemingway. They don't understand. Hemingway was really anti-war.
Yes, he was.
An ambulance driver in World War I, and he saw the carnage on the battlefield. He writes about that in this letter. He writes about having your guts spilled out. People need to read this. Anyway, I agree with Mark from North Carolina, and I think his comments today were right on the mark, Mark. And I'm at a point in which I think that we have to do something about wresting control of this government from the billionaires who are treating it like it's their own playland. This has got to stop. This has really got to stop.
I agree.
Anyway, okay, Mike, I've said what I have to say. That's all. I'll be
All right.
curious
Well,
to hear
thank
what
you
other
for the
people have
phone
to say
call,
about it.
and have a happy new year. And we're going to switch over to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking the call. I disagree with the caller from North Carolina. I think he's been watching too much Alex Jones. I get tired of hearing him, use immigration somehow because all these people from the third world might be slightly more anti-abortion, that we shouldn't just let them all in. And look, if these people would practice family planning, intelligent family planning, where they don't all have 6, 7 kids, maybe they wouldn't feel the need to leave their country. So I disagree. I think a compromise on abortion could be reached, say, after 2 months or something, but I am pro-choice. I think Margaret Sanger was a great person. I think Bill Gates is a great person because he has common sense, and he looks at Africa and says, hey, you guys can't keep having 12 kids each and just sitting there starving to death. We need to reduce your population so that you can have well-run societies, kind of like China has done. So if China would not have done that one-child policy, where would they be today? So, so I think the Christian Coalition and all these anti-abortion groups are usually pretty hardcore Zionist. So the Republican Party has used this anti-abortion issue for probably 30 years to just basically distract people, the base that was probably more concerned about mass immigration and demographic change. So what do you think about that Christian Coalition being totally hardcore Zionist?
Well, I don't know if they're hardcore. I know there's a lot of Zionists among Christians, not all of them though. I know that there's a great many religious groups who are anti-abortion, and again, I'm in agreement with you that family planning and birth control needs to be made available so that people can engage in sex and not produce a life that is then snuffed out, a few weeks later.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you, but I mean, we could if we had a legitimate government, we could compromise and say, hey, maybe the morning after pill would be legal, but not the late term abortion. There could be more things people agree on, but they use this as a constant wedge issue. And then they get people like Mark who are like so twisted in his thinking that somehow he's using that to justify open borders, and we shouldn't. It's not just a few migrants. I don't think 25 million people is just a few. And they haven't even opened the borders yet to China or India yet. So wait till that
Well, there's
happens.
a lot of Chinese flooding into both the United States and Canada. And I'm not concerned about the Chinese because they're well educated. They have a great work ethic. And I think overall they can be a benefit to our society. My concern is the masses that are coming in from countries that have poor education, people who couldn't make it in their home countries. And by the way, as a side note, I actually don't have a problem with the morning after pill. But again, the use of abortion as retroactive birth control strikes me as cold and heartless and cynical. And you have to wonder about the mindset of women who choose that option over having, a diaphragm with her or something like that. And I understand that birth control pills, are rather hazardous, but there are other things that you can do to prevent a pregnancy from occurring in the first place.
See, I'd rather have, because you have countries where it's illegal, like Brazil, and you literally have like armies of little orphan kids running around having shootouts with the cops, so, and it's also immoral to take a 16-year-old girl who might make a mistake and say, oh, you got to live with that the rest of your life, or force her to have a baby and give it away to some weird adoption people, because I think probably half of the people that adopt children have some weird issue as well. So
Well, I take
I kinda
exception to
disagree.
that
I think
remark.
anything up to
I
a
take
couple months
exception
is
to that
fine.
remark because earlier on, when I first married Claire, we discussed adopting because in my first marriage, my wife got an abortion against my will. And one of the great disappointments of my life is I did not get to be a father. I am the world's best uncle, according to my grandnieces and nephews. But I think Claire and I would have made excellent parents to an adopted child. Now, of course, it's too old for us to do that.
I actually, me and a girl actually had an abortion too, and I was not financially. We were not ready. We just met
Mhm.
online. You know, she was pretty much trying to trap me, and it's a good thing
Well,
we
that's
did.
not the
And
same
after a
situation.
month,
That's not the same situation. And
well,
you
a
had to.
month, a fetus after a month, it's kind of none of your business to judge people what they do, in my view. So I could
Okay,
agree.
well,
You're installing your morals on
you're
other
you're
people,
you're
and so
judging the Christian Coalition. You're judging everybody who doesn't share your view. So, if you're going to be even-handed, please be even-handed.
right. Well, I mean, we all judge, and that's fine. And I'm judging the caller from North Carolina because he'd rather have a world where just endless people just have endless kids like Alex Jones thinks is such a great idea. And
Well, no,
we could come up with a compromise on abortion, but some of these libertarians are so clueless about how the real world works, and guys like Bill Gates are trying to improve the lives of Africans, and obviously anyone can
No,
go to
he's
Africa and say,
obviously
look,
trying to depopulate Africa, and he's been advocating for years sterilizing the majority of humans using vaccines. And people are very concerned about that. I mean, I will be the first to admit that the human population is overly large, and the reason for that is because sex is a lot more fun than dying. But the problem I have with pro-abortion people is they always want somebody else to go without children, or if they want somebody else to die, and they're not willing to basically walk their talk off the top of a tall building.
well, yeah, I guess. But I mean, like, again, look at China, so you could say it was inhumane to have one child, but you just said how educated and great they were. Well,
Yep.
If they were all like Mark, they would have been having 12 kids each and just pouring across the border, So anyway.
Well, again, they use birth control over there. And again, it's a matter of history that prior to the Black Plague in Europe, it was overpopulated and people were living in squalor. And when the Black Plague basically reduced the population by such a huge amount, that was the birth of the Renaissance. Because all of a sudden there was, along with the ending of the Little Ice Age.
Right, and that's what Malthus was kind of saying, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Mark takes him out of context to make him into this evil guy, but he was just saying, look, if you reduce the population instead of always growing it, you might be able to increase people's standard of living. So
Okay, well, there's one thing that I think, everybody listening to this show needs to ask themselves, had abortion been available when my mother was carrying me, would I be here today? And I think if you answer that question honestly, you're probably going to come to a realization how you feel about abortion.
Well, hey, I'm younger than you, so I was there. But hey,
okay. All right. Well, Dan,
made
thank
a
you very
choice.
much for the phone call
Hey,
here.
I want to make a choice too. Real quick, though,
Okay,
I want to
well-
make a choice. You have to be financially ready to have kids. You can't just plop out kids and be like, you got to live with it because you had one night a mistake. I would never do that to a young girl.
Well, again,
someone
that's not the
17.
story that I went through in my first marriage. I mean, we were married. I was doing very well in the film industry. And when we had been courting, I said, my intention is to have a family. And she said, yes. And then it turned out that no, she didn't really want that at all. All right. So, Dan, we're going
and that's
to.
sad. Well, real quick, though, does she regret that decision? I mean, no offense.
I have
but-
no idea. I have not talked to her in over 30 years.
Right on. Well, men
Okay.
do need more rights as far as.
Yeah, I would agree with you on
Anyway,
that.
I'll
Dan,
let
we've
her
got to
go.
let you go. Dan, we got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. We've got more callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phone to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Yeah, that was an interesting call there by Dan, but I think many people are perplexed by Mark's parallel thinking that he thinks the solution to making us a more moral country, instead of teaching it from, in the family, to allowing 20, 30 million aliens, just an unlimited alien invasion, be it legal or unlegal. Most of these people, many of them found to be criminals, murderers.
Yes. MS-13.
Drug coyotes, MS-13. It's just fascinating. But it was very telling, and it was nice to hear once in a while that Mark come out and said he actually is, a socialist. So, and I don't get this, socialism. Where are all the, where are all the socialist countries that are thriving? Where are the the businesses that socialism helps. I mean, I have yet to see socialism say, we're socialist.
Well, the one problem we have is there are no socialist countries on earth that the United States isn't messing with. And it would be an interesting experiment to set one of those aside in a little sort of kind of a protective preserve and say hands off and see how they do.
Well, the United States wasn't messing with these countries back, when Marx and all these other people were around. I mean, that was their own thing they were doing. That had nothing to do with the United States. They created their own revolutions and their own destruction. Without any of the United States' help, they do a fine job. And then, I look at, how Marx cites, some of these other things. I mean, when you bring in those type of people, that many people, what does that do to our standard of living? I mean, that's Cloward and Piven right there. Get them all on social systems and overflood the system and all. That's exactly Cloward and Piven, or the Piven-Clow, narrative on how to destroy a nation.
Yes.
And so I don't understand Mark's thinking with that. And then he cites that they're a capitalist country, he says that they're not a globalist country, Mexico. I got 5 letters for Mark. NAFTA.
Yep.
And if they're not a globalist country, I don't know how the hell they got in that mix. And with that, Michael, I'm not going to take 15 or 20 minutes. I made my point, and I'd just like to hear your commentary. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. I mean, the hard reality is that at a time when we have 35% of Americans on some form of welfare or food assistance, and massive unemployment, and they're lying about those numbers as well. Flooding this country with immigrants is a bad idea. It's taking jobs away from the American people. It is putting a much heavier strain on our social support system. And it's all in the name of generating Democratic votes, unless they're planning to somehow erase the white population, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, we're going to go back to the phones here to Paul in New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Paul. I'm probably going to have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Michael, concerning Bill Gates and his eugenics.
Yes.
I would argue that the problem with the Western world is because after defeating Adolf Hitler, you basically got rid of even contemplating the notion of eugenics.
Okay.
So that for the past 70 years, we've just let anybody who walks into a town hall or city hall to get a marriage license,
yes,
and just let them marry based on the opinions of ignoramuses. That's a question. Should you let mating and, the breeding of children be overseen by people who are ignorant and free, or should there be a role of the state? As we know, the majority of American history, there was a role of the state in marriage.
Yes.
And it started with them not wanting whites to marry black people.
Yes.
And that was law throughout the United States up until the 60s. So we see that the majority of American history, the state regulated marriage, and they didn't want Africans mixing with European people.
Yes, I remember. I remember hearing about that.
Now that I would consider was eugenics. It's eugenics.
You're
policy.
absolutely right.
And by the way,
You're absolutely right.
And it worked well. Notice they had eugenics policies for 140 years. And during that time, they rose from a backwards agricultural power to the global superpower, economic superpower.
Okay, Paul, I got to put you on hold.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
For over 20 years now, Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here is a testimonial from Amazon.com. I received an arterial switch at birth. In my mid-20s, I started getting slight runs of NSVT. Nothing too serious, but enough to cause worry. I started taking Extendivite a little over 2 years ago, and it helped cut the palpitations and NSVT down drastically. This isn't a cure-all supplement. I strongly recommend a good diet and exercise to aid in any heart troubles you may be having, and I strongly recommend giving Extendivite a try. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org. and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us
800-724-2719 extension 3. 800-724-2719 extension 3.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Paul in New Jersey. We're talking about eugenics. And my concern with state involvement with birth decisions is it can be misused. There were certainly abuses in the United States, like, prostitutes were being sterilized against their will. And of course, Adolf Hitler's race hygiene theories were inspired by the 1930s eugenics movement in the United States. And you can see what a mishmash the Nazi government made of all of that. So I would be very, very cautious going down that road.
Well, I myself wouldn't, because I see how successfully it worked for white European people. And as soon as white European people lost control over their nation due to a Marxist influence, and some of that Marxist influence came out of the anthropologists, I think his name was Boas, and others who infiltrated and then started overturning what I would call classic Darwinian anthropology, and replaced it with the we're all equal mantra, which is pretty much mimicked by BLM today, and the rest of the racial dysgenesis out there. because that's what I see has happened. Remember, we have to remember, it's not the Klan's world anymore. The Klan hasn't been running this country since the 1960s. We live in the modern Marxist realm or era.
Okay.
For the past 40 years with our media, it's been run by Jewish Marxists. And this influence has infiltrated the character of the American nation. And they're replacing whites through mass migration that Mark from North Carolina welcomes. You know, we're going to get lots of Hispanics. And so we're going to live in the dysgenic world. So Mark doesn't have to worry, Mark. There is no eugenicists taking over. This is your world. And this is the way dysgenicists like it. And so when you see the ugly people, the ugly buildings, the ugly character of our people, the disunited America where people hide in their turtle shells because they don't really like the diversity, right? This is not created by Nazis. So don't blame the Nazis for the modern era or the tranny operations. That wasn't the eugenicists who advocate that. You know, that's the dysgenesis. That's coming from the Marxist left. Now, Bill Gates really was the devil incarnate and could wipe out the whole world. Then we're up to 7 billion. When's that going to happen? Over what time frame? And so in another 20 years, when not many people died, we'll just be able to come up with the same judgment when we judge Alex Jones for his last 20 years, for claiming the end of the world was imminent, the fall of the Republic was imminent, we lose all our guns, and here we are 20 years later, there's no mass genocide, just a slow mass migration of third world.
Well, you know, the plan may have been delayed. That's why they renamed Agenda 21 to Agenda 30.
Yeah, well, the way it's turning out, the rising tide of color is still continued, as Lothrop Stoddard had warned us. And whites are going to be a minority, and all the dysgenicists can be happy now, all right, because you got rid of the whites and the white supremacists and their eugenics policies. And now you'll get to look and enjoy the world. And remember, we'll have to erase the old films of the 40s and 50s that showed the eugenics and the beautiful European people that filled America. And now we're going to have what we're getting out of Hollywood. And there you go. The dysgenicists have won.
All right. Well, thank
note,
you. Yeah. Thank you very much for the phone call here. And we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Did we lose Tom? We lost him. All right. Let's go to Keith Rogers. Hello, Keith. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, a couple of things here, Michael. You remember Anastasio down in Nicaragua?
Yeah.
Well, one of his favorite methods of getting rid of his so-called people was to throw them into the Messiah volcano from a helicopter, but the people wound up throwing him out. He fled to the United States, about $100 million to Florida. Anyway, the moral to this story here, after doing that, the Sandinistas, they built over 1,000 schools and playgrounds. Yes. They cut their literacy to less than 10%. And of course, they weren't learning this transgenderism stuff like that. They cut infant mortality by a third, and they increased their health care services and like that. Now the Oxfam came out with a study on this. Out of the 76 developing countries, said that Nicaragua was exceptional to the strength of that government's commitment to its improving the condition of its own people. Yes. And encouraging their active participation in the development process. Now, out of that, George Schultz, who got his industrial economics there in Massachusetts there, he then called the Sandinistas a cancer right here on our land mass. The threat was to U.S. national security. What the problem is it isn't socialism in itself. It's how they co-opted everything. just as inasmuch as when they want to point to another country and then they go in there and they seize that country's assets through the CIA, these constant overthrows,
Yep.
and they
The
no longer
Contras.
have a means to support themselves. So then they turn around and say, "Well, look, they're eating their pets." Well, that's caused by U.S. sanctions, overthrows of coups and stuff. So if given time, the problem with, like, say, Latin America, they look to America as a beacon because America in its revolution had broken loose from Britain.
Yes.
The only problem with that is the 22 member states, it was 23 because of Spain, and that's how they get Latin America out of that. They look to America and they follow that example, and that's why you had all these revolutions down there. Sadly, through empire, the United States has now gobbled up those lost colonies of Spain. And that's why we see that socialism doesn't work. So that was in kind of a reply to like giving it a chance to see what's going on down there. And now we have where Trump here recently had said that Nicaragua was an existential threat to the United States. And of course, I had to look that up. And that's because China was going to build a brand new canal to be able to pass those massive ships of theirs through Nicaragua instead of the Panama Canal, which it can't do.
Yes.
But it's all, as your video itself says, all wars are bankers' wars. It's all led back to commerce and who controls it or who's spending whose dollar and stuff, But the people are usually the ones that come out on the bad end of this. Just like here in America. Remember the 70s and 80s, we had strong unions, 40 hours a week, paid health care, overtime pay, all that, all destroyed by the FBI, CIA, who set up these groups of the KKK and the Nazis to go in there and start killing the union leaders. Right now in Colombia and in Honduras, you mentioned Honduras earlier. Well, look at Israel's arms sales to Honduras. So where's MS-13 getting their arms from? But thousands of union leaders and civil rights leaders have been assassinated all through Honduras and Colombia, NATO, and this is to keep people in abstract poverty. And that's why people never get anything. So when people, or of course, then you got the IMF who devalues their peso. So when a father trying to support his family can't at home, he immigrates. Illegally, yes, but a U.S. dollar is worth more to send home to his family than it is a peso in his own country. And that's caused by the CIA's internal-led wars.
Yes. And it's a huge drain on U.S. dollars from the U.S. economy at a time when we cannot afford it.
Yes. And now they got immigrants coming in here with, say, they're given $1,800, and they're going to win what? They're giving them American jobs as Americans are needing the money. They keep people blocked in, It's like the Egyptians. If the story is true, they kept the slaves busy building these stupid pyramids and stuff like that, while those elite bask in the sun. And they're doing the same thing here. My last Sunday's show was the second part of this New World Order. If anyone wants to look in the archives there on perception management, but it's all detailed there, exactly what has been going on. And their final goal is Russia.
Yes.
Which was part of the NSC 68 doctrine from Truman. Russia's always been the constant enemy, and any country that like whether it was Nicaragua or like that, we can go back to what's that stupid movie where they landed in there in Colorado, and they're going to fight the Cubans, the Soviets, and Nicaraguans,
Red Dawn
team going to do it, but Red Dawn, But they weren't shooting communists down there. They were killing Catholics and Protestants.
Yes, they were.
And it's all been based on lies. And all these countries that they've attacked under the so-called communism was to destroy their unions. They did that through the Marshall Plan. They did it here in America. And now they've been doing it throughout Latin America. And it's so that the banks can control everything. And you see that right now, the Federal Reserve buying up everything.
Yep.
So anyway,
absolutely.
Okay, Mike.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to James in Vancouver. James, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind?
Yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I changed my topic from COVID to population control, but they are related. And all those people out there who think Margaret Sanger and Bill Gates are great people, well, all you got to do is go over to the clinic and volunteer and get that vaccine, and you'll fulfill all of that idealistic notions that they're talking about. And while they're getting their vaccine, which is probably going to kill them, let them remember that the leaders, the big leaders, are getting saline solution. And some of those countries that everyone's talking about want to suck America dry, they're getting saline solution as well. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, everyone's talking about, oh, you got to be old enough to have a kid. You got to be this. You got to be that. Well, yeah, okay. But now we're in a war. They're trying to kill us. They're trying to abort us. So how does that feel? See what I'm saying?
Well, it doesn't feel very good at all here. And, the arrogance of some of these billionaires, they seem to think they're gods and have the power to basically reshape our lives to their whims.
Well, you see, if they want me to take the vaccine, fine, but they got to take the same vaccine as I'm going to take, and they're not going to do that.
Nope.
Anybody with half a brain knows that. Anyway, Happy New Year, and yeah. I was thinking earlier, John Cleese should do something on COVID-19, the Monty Python thing, because it's all madness anyway.
It is, and I would not be surprised if John Cleese does show up with something about that. And again, it won't be covered by American media or even our social media. I mean, there's a total blackout on what's going on here. And we're being mushroomed. We're being kept in the dark and fed on garbage.
Well, anyway, I wish you all the best, and thanks for taking my call.
You got it. Have a happy new year. It could hardly be worse than the last one. And let's go to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yep. Yeah, Michael, good day to you, and aloha. And I just want to say that was a very awesome, I got to say, informative call by Paul. It really was.
Yes.
Yeah, Michael, and I want to get back to the call yesterday. Kelly was very good, too, let me tell you. And you had brought something up with Kelly that makes a lot of sense. Like, this country's going to end up being broke up. If this happens tonight, you're going to see that. The only way this country won't go into an all-out revolution is that you're going to have to divide the country into sectors like California for the leftist liberals, and New York, like you say, the New England states and the central part for the conservative people who want to keep freedom and commerce and everything else, and not go totally full-blown Bolshevik communist. So that's my insight on that. But as far as Paul's call there, he hit on some really informative stuff that I hope all the viewers were paying attention to, and I did, because it makes a lot of sense. And Mike, talking about making the perfect soldier. Hitler wanted to have the perfect soldier, and the Nazi. The Chinese or a lot of these other countries are doing that now because they don't have their the Chinese are a homogenous society, basically, like Japan. They don't want all these. Matter of fact, they're trying to get the Uyghurs out of China if they could. They ship them over to a Muslim country. Wouldn't you believe that, Mike? Or what do you think about that? The Chinese
actually, China is not totally homogenous. It still contains the remains of the multiple kingdoms that China's first emperor, Qing Huangdi, I think his name was, pulled together. I mean, that's why you have all these different languages in China, like Cantonese and Mandarin and so forth. So it's not really that homogenous. Okay, but they are very racist towards non-Chinese. To an extent, so are the Japanese, and that's rooted, unfortunately, in human instinct and xenophobia. And it's part of our nature, and it would be nice if it could be conditioned out. But history has shown it's a very, very hard instinct to let go of.
Well, yeah, Mike, the Japanese, though, they supposedly have a really very high suicide rate because I guess what happened in World War II, and they feel like they were so proud and they should have been the rulers, whatever. But, that's here or there. But now I want to get onto a topic, Mike, that we need to talk about a little more in this year about on your show, what I believe. And, a lot of guys, one guy, we disagree on something, but we agree on a lot of things. Statistics, Mike. I was looking at New York. The Afro-Americans make up 23% of the population in the city of New York. and they commit over 75% of all the major crimes and murders and all the major crimes. 75%. The whites are, I believe, at 35% of the population in New York, and they only commit 3% of the crime. So what's going on here? Who's committing the rest of the crime here? What other groups? Hispanics? I don't know. They didn't really have go into detail. But what's going on here is like he was saying, they're just trying to be. It's going to be the ruination of this country because they're definitely trying to get rid of the white population, mainly the males.
That's what it looks like.
Now, all the commercials you see a blonde-haired woman with an Afro-American man. You hardly ever see a white male with a black Afro-American woman. And like I told your show many a times, I haven't talked to you too much about it, but these
Tom, got to put you on hold. Tom, got to put you on hold.
Yes.
Stay on the line. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back to you after these few words.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Amazon customer. It's amazing. I just ordered my second bottle. In 1 month, my blood pressure dropped significantly. I no longer get chest pain after I exercise. The reviews are spot on. My target is to get off of BP meds, and if it keeps going like this, I see a light at the end of the tunnel. Amazon customer. Extendivite works great. This product has made my blood pressure and cholesterol stable. I highly recommend it. Amazon customer. Excellent herbal formula. I've been using it to keep my cardiovascular system fine-tuned. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Republic Broadcasting Network late night premiere show of Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book your slot as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
Born in the city with a silver spoon, great-grandson of the oil tycoon, raised by wolves, thinks he owns the moon, socialist banker to the one world goons, Davy Rockefeller, chairman of the CFR.
Welcome back to our show here. Last segment of the program today, and we're talking with Tom in Florida. And Tom, if you could just kind of pick up where you left off.
Yeah, Mike. What I got to say also is, with the commercials they're showing all the time on TV with this interracial type deal, they're trying to show the white woman with the black man. Hardly you see it the other way around. But like I told you in the past, a lot of these Afro-American women, I know they're not happy about this because, they already have in their households most of these. It seems like most of these female black women don't even have a male counterpart in their household to raise these kids. So, what kind of message is this sending? It's unbelievable what's going on. But Mike, I just got to say, I was looking at with the statistics in St. Louis and a lot of these blue cities with these mayors, their murder rates are off the chain that they haven't seen in 2 or 3 decades.
Yep.
St. Louis, Philadelphia, all these cities that are run by these Democrat mayors, blue states, their crime is horrendous. It's worse than
It is, and they're out there calling to defund the police. I mean, it's as bad as it was during Prohibition when the gangsters were pushing the illegal alcohol, and they were running gun battles in the streets, and that's what we're seeing today with illegal drugs and drug gangs shooting each other in the streets.
Mike, I want you to bring this up because I really don't, but I want you to give the figure. I'm not going to say it on air. I'll let you do it. What's the average IQ of the Afro-American compared to the white Caucasians or the Asiatics?
I actually don't know between the blacks and the whites. I do know the Asiatics are slightly higher than both.
Well, what I saw, can I say it on air or is it all right?
Yeah, go ahead. You only got 2 minutes.
I'm afraid. From what I saw, the average Afro-American's IQ is at 85. The average white Caucasian is at 125 to 130. That's around 125, 130. And I think the Asiatics around 1. Yeah, that's what I saw. That's what I saw in some of the reports I saw in these major outlets.
I don't know. I got to tell you, I don't trust those numbers. I really, really don't. 85 is way too low. I have to be honest.
I agree, Mike.
They don't pass
what
the
I'm
smell test.
Well, I kind of agree because there's a lot of Afro-Americans that are brilliant. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, 100% agree in that. So
Yep.
I'm just saying that's what that's what these news networks, they like to stir this animosity, this hatred, and who's controlled? Like the caller said, we know who's controlling the media. He who controls the media controls the mind, and so many people are so.
Well, not as much anymore. That's why the corporate media is out to destroy the independent media.
That's correct. That is so
yes.
correct.
Got a big target painted on my back.
You ain't kidding. And Mike, and like a couple of callers said, that you're going to use this immigration to totally wipe this white Caucasian America out. That's all I can tell you. And I believe a solution may be, in some of these white states, you're going to have to start paying these women to have 4 or 5 kids. I mean, it's getting to that
Maybe.
point.
Could very well be. Tom, I got to let you go. We're at the end of the program here. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller's show. It's being guest hosted by Johnny Delirious while John is in Washington, D.C., and we're expecting a report from the ground during tomorrow's show from John as well. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. It is urgent. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.